long is it going to take to format?
I don't know.
Oh, that didn't take long. Can't.
Sorry. That didn't take that long.
All right, everybody, we're back. Episode 7 of Crosstalk. I'm Tim.
I'm Chris.
And today we're going to talk about movies that are so bad they're good, or so bad they're just bad movies. And the reason why we're doing this is because Chris and I made friends with a gentleman we see sitting right in front of you here. His name is Singh, and he is an action movie expert.
Yes.
Self-professed, and I would say that's actually come true in talking with him about film.
Absolutely.
And we're going to talk about a lot of bad movies, and there are going to be a lot of bad action movies in there. So that's why Singh's here.
Yes, I hope to shed some light.
So, Chris, when I think about bad movies, I typically think of, really poorly made films. Right? I would assume that would be the same for you. Do you have a particular example that comes to mind for you in terms of like a really badly made movie?
Really, I think when the creators try too hard to go for so bad, it's good. I'll bring it up right now, Sharknado. So there's 4 of them now. They're terrible. I've seen the first one. I think I've probably seen the second one as well. But they're cast badly, and they're written badly, and they're directed badly, and the CGI is bad, and everything about it is bad. It's all on purpose. And you can see what they're going for, but ultimately it falls flat because they're just... I honestly, it comes down to I think they're trying too hard.
Right.
And I mean, you contrast that with a movie like Army of Darkness, where it's a complete labor of love. Even though they didn't have the budget, and a lot of things look hokey and cheesy, or the dialogue is cheesy, sometimes on purpose. It's super quotable, it's super fun. So, honestly, you can really see the contrasting styles there, right?
So you mentioned Army of Darkness, and when I think about like movies that are poorly made, but they're actually end up being really enjoyable. Like I just watched Wolf Cop, and then I reviewed another movie called Love and Time and Monsters, right?
Yeah.
And they're similarly made in terms of they're unknown actors who aren't necessarily the most talented people, but they have a lot of heart, and they actually put themselves into their roles knowing that this is a low-budget film, and it's going to have a lot of cheese, and it's going to have a lot of flaws, but it's still entertaining.
Oftentimes, especially now with the advent of CGI, oftentimes a limited budget and practical effects can actually be more effective, especially when you're dealing with horror.
Yes.
They can be more effective as a device to
authenticity.
Yeah, for authenticity, for dread, for atmosphere. To get to that tense situation. When you don't have the budget and you can't show as much, there's more there's more of that threat, that tense level that you feel, right?
Especially with horror, having that low budget sometimes brings out the more creative mind, because you have to make do with what little you have.
Yeah.
So and the other thing to put emphasis on these movies is like they own it in the sense that they don't take themselves too seriously. That's part of it as well, because I mean most movies will they have an aim and they want the movie to have this certain feel, but they take themselves too seriously while doing it, and that ends up failing the project and the desired effect or result.
And you'll see that with bad movies. Like the one that always comes to mind for me is, and this is a pretty recent movie, but Aloha. So like I've talked about this, and I know it's bad because I know
we have talked about it.
Talk about it again, but the reason why the movie is bad is because it's trying really, really hard to be a lighthearted movie, which is really odd to me because it's not lighthearted. It's very like ham-fisted, and Bradley Cooper, who's like normally known for his levity in his roles, is like just doesn't deliver on the results. So
and that's a rom-com, right?
Yeah.
I don't see too many of those, but the thing is
some really good ones
with those. The thing is, from what I do know, what the girlfriend has subjected me to is that Bradley Cooper, he usually is the lovable hunk guy in most of these movies.
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't deliver then.
Yeah, and I mean, he can give a pretty good performance. I mean, he's gotten Oscar nominations for his work with David O. Russell, right?
Yeah, I think one other example to add to that would be Street Fighter. There's a couple words in Street Fighter, like quotes that they take from, I think they took a quote from Gandhi.
Nice.
So I was like, well, that's a good, that redeems the movie in a sense to say, well, the movie wasn't completely a waste of my time, you know?
Yeah.
Cool. So speaking of Street Fighter.
Speaking of Street Fighter, yeah.
You guys are familiar with another widely beloved video game franchise that is also based in two-player fighting by the name of Mortal Kombat.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I would pick that as one of my So Bad It's Good movies.
I would agree with that.
Yeah. Not so much.
I want to hear your point. Want to hear your point, and then I want to hear your point because you are for the movie. He is against. So now there's a so good it's bad, so bad it's good, and then
bad
it's
just bad.
Yeah.
At the time, I enjoyed it. As I've gotten older, it has not aged well at all.
Okay.
And it's Christopher
Lambert,
yeah. So again, a lot of his filmography you can break down to So Bad It's Good or Just Plain Bad. Like Highlander,
yeah.
So Bad It's Good.
I think
a lot of
that's
his
his one-hit wonder.
Highlander's like exactly. It's good, and the rest of them pretty much terrible.
I'm going on the fact that that's all right. If you have any more to add, because then I want to hear because those are solid points. Those are solid points that I totally agree with, even though I'm for the movie. I want to hear yours now.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. It evokes very strong feelings for me, which are associated with as being a kid in the time the movie was released. Is there's the soundtrack, right? So when you listen to that soundtrack, you like immediately get amped, right? Mm-hmm. So like good action films amp you up, right?
That is correct.
So anytime I listen to any songs out of that movie, I immediately feel that sense of...
Yeah, but is that the music or the movie? Because the music can do that to you generally.
I agree. And so the reason why I think it... Okay, so this is what I'll say. As a fan of film, as a fan of music, I make a distinction between the two because I wouldn't have listened to that music under a different context.
So it introduced you, kind of.
Right. So, like, electronica, techno, all that stuff that was really popular at that time, just, there was no avenue for me to access it. Second, the action sequences in the movie are very entertaining. And I would agree that the CGI is terrible, but I would disagree that it makes it bad. I would say that it actually makes it really fun.
Fair point.
Yes.
For me, anyway. And the reason for that is because most of the time, terrible CGI takes me out of the movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That reminds me of the video game. Because the CGI in the video game is terrible.
It's pretty terrible, too. And that's, that's the thing, really, that we could end up circling around to a few times is that, especially when you're dealing with so bad it's good versus just it's bad.
Yeah.
It's very, more subjective than regular film.
Absolutely.
I feel. Yeah.
I agree with that.
Yeah. Okay, so you've heard two sides. I can give you another point, but if you want...
Actually, I would like to hear that, too, because the thing is, the more points to it, the better the all-around judgment of the movie from all three.
Okay, great. So the other reason, again, is also very emotional.
Mm-hmm.
But the guy who plays Liu Kang, Robin Shou, like, I haven't seen very many movies with him, but and that's probably like one of the two. I think the other one was like Beverly Hills Ninja. Yeah.
There was another one too.
Super awful.
Yeah, but there's a lot of HK movies with him. But go on.
But he does a really bad job acting.
Oh yeah.
But the notes that he does hit, like, make you feel for him, and feel for like the death of his brother, and when he fights Shang Tsung on the edge, like, again, it all, like, the music and the action and that particular exchange, like, I killed your brother, and he's like, your soul is mine, and he's like, and I can't remember what he says now, I forget the line, but it doesn't matter. But he's just like, he does the fireball, like, that emotional response, as a brother, as an older brother, that meant something to me. So, and then you see him get fucking fall on the thing, and then it's just like, and that was it. And Sonya Blade has a really good thing too, where she kills Kano, and like, okay, so we can have like a conversation about this at some point too, and I don't want to get too off the rails here.
Well, we kind of already are, but
but we're talking about specifically Warhammer. So the reason why this is cool is movie fans and video game fans, well, actually less video game fans, but movie fans, I would say, have had strong female characters for a long time, and people just don't always acknowledge it or realize it. But Sonya Blade does a really good job in that movie as a strong female character, she redeems her partner's death. And like she just doesn't put up with anybody's shit. Like it's
without a second thought too.
Yeah,
she's like, well,
like that's what's driving her character. It's not like a romantic thing. Like, you know, a lot of times like there's always a thing going back to like, oh, the female needs to be doing something with soft or doing something with the male lead.
I wonder, going back on it, does it pass the Bechdel test? Be interesting.
For that point where it's the movie you grow out of the movie, right? And that's something that is. It's entirely a feeling for you. Now, on Tim's point, he will never grow out of the movie because it hit emotional cues for him. And with a movie, an action movie hitting those cues, it's kind of easy too, because a lot of people have had that kind of connection with family, losing family, stuff like this, so they can see the guy just going ape on everybody, right, and getting revenge, right, and that's what we want to see. That's human nature, right, and that's what action movies are, they're based on baser instincts.
So action movies are designed to emote or to invoke an emotive response.
That's right, and that part of the action movie is what makes the genre so.
I would argue that I would actually argue that any good film, any good film that you enjoy would evoke an emotional response, and that doesn't always evoke the same emotional response.
It's arguably, a point to say that action fans are kind of stunted in a sense that they got picked on or something, or they have aggression issues or something. But the thing is that the genre is targeting that demographic, right? So now for Tim, the thing is that his points are solid on a fact that he enjoys the fighting sequences just because they're entertaining. But the thing is now, from a martial artist, being a martial artist myself, seeing those action scenes, those action scenes are well crafted.
Taste, right?
Yeah, taste. And you haven't seen that kind of craftsmanship in movies like Street Fighter and stuff for a while. And the thing is that even a part of it is that you could say the authenticity of those fights came mainly because all those actors that were fighting,
they're actually
martial artists. See, now, where arguably The Matrix, none of those actors were martial artists. That's why it looked forced, hokey, wooden.
Knowing that technically it's well made, and
adds an extra layer for you now.
Adds an extra layer, because it's like, okay, now I can see why I appreciate it, because it felt like they were actually fighting. And as a 9-year-old kid, you're like, you think that you get excited because of that, but it's actually, this is an actually well executed choreography, right?
Yeah, because they're real people doing it, right? They do it as training all the time.
Yeah.
That was the thing, and if I want you to actually. For you, just to see what I'm saying.
No, I remember what you're saying.
Go into no. What I'm saying about the movie. Yeah. Go to the fight where he fights Reptile. Liu Kang fights Reptile at the end. It's the only fight Reptile's in, and it's like near the end of the movie.
Yeah.
And
I remember. I've seen it.
Yeah, that one. Just remember when it activates, the body activates. The guy in the background says Reptile. And then the music cues. There are action aficionados that have worn out the VHS replaying that over and over because it was so well done.
Yeah.
Soon as he activated, his eyes open, flipped out, kicked Liu Kang in the chest, and the fight started. That is the definition of action there. So, and that get you amped right away. Mm-hmm. So if you watch that one part and you don't get amped again, well.
Movie's
I don't know what to say. Yeah, I don't know what to say.
Movie's not.
Okay, so I had a specific point that I wanted to make.
Okay.
About a movie that I think is really good, and I feel like as a person who loves action movies, that you will have something very interesting to say about this. So, let's talk about a movie from the 1980s about a robot that could.
Oh, there's a lot of robot that could.
You're talking about Terminator? Batteries not included?
No, I'm not talking about either.
That was not included. Yeah, that was a good one.
You could say, you can make a case so bad it's good.
Short circuit.
Not short circuit.
Anyway.
A robot that could. Or a robot that did. I know a robot that did.
What's the title of your movie there, Tim?
So, the original RoboCop movie, I would argue, is so bad it's good. I would never ever say that it is a good movie. And the reason why I said that is because, for a number of reasons, but the shotgun scene, for one, like, that is just badly done.
I'll buy that for $1.
I'll buy that for $1.
Scene?
The shotgun scene where they actually how Peter Weller becomes RoboCop, how Murphy becomes RoboCop.
Oh yeah.
So
the death scene,
yeah, the death scene, that's like super badly done.
It is, and one of the reasons because Peter Weller is a limited actor, and they shoot his arm off, and he's like, "Ow!" and you're like, I'm pretty sure you'd be screaming in pain right off the bat.
You know, the funny thing is that he's teaching at a university acting.
Oh wow, really?
I would say even as an action film, in a lot of ways, they kind of cut corners. Like, if you watch the part where they're being chased down the highway in the, I don't know what it is, it's some sort of van that would have been used for money laundering or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, that part is terribly done too.
Yeah, it is. When you really remember the scene, yeah. So bad production.
So bad production, but I think the campiness of the movie...
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm going to add something.
The campiness of the movie allows it to sort of transcend all that and make it an interesting film, one that people can enjoy, especially in groups.
So the reason why he does it like that is because his movies always they're over the top on purpose because it's his interpretation of over the top. It's an under the.
He's underlining some points.
Yeah. There's like subliminal points to his movies, like so. RoboCop was the consumerization of America. Mm-hmm. So like a corporation has taken over Detroit and taken over its police force and everything like that.
The commercials in between RoboCop.
Yeah, and the commercialism, and they're like, so they're like that. Starship Troopers is the militarization of basically everybody. The entire world has pretty much been taken over America, and they're like hyper militarized, and like they have colonized because. They've colonized all these places because you like Rio de Janeiro. It's like, oh look, mostly white people live here. You know what I mean? And Total Recall is somebody is essentially, you know, it's your dealing with dual personalities type thing. So it's always like a subliminal. I mean, that's more of a Philip K. Dick novel, but he always does over the top to illustrate his subliminal messages, and RoboCop is a perfect example of that.
But the thing is that the movie was so over the top. It tried so hard to pass just to get a rating, R rating, because of the violence, right? The squibs what they were using as well.
But it's authenticity. It's hyper.
It's over the top.
Visualized violence on purpose.
Yeah.
And the one scene where I can attest to that part was Ed 209, where he malfunctioned. He shot that guy full of lead.
I know. How many squibs did he use in that guy's suit? He must have been packed to the brim.
That was ridiculous. But the thing where I say production was good is because you see the guy's body actually steaming.
The reason why I like that movie is, to Chris's point, that I think that there is an underlying message there, but I don't think it's obvious all the time. I think people miss that point.
The whole I'll buy that for $1 is on purpose. The commercials in between are on purpose. The newscasts are on purpose. Yeah. Like, it's very... Look at the commercialization. And it was ahead of its... kind of ahead of this. I mean, Dawn of the Dead did better, but... the original of that. But, like, it was almost ahead of its time that way.
Yeah.
It's like looking at the Mona Lisa.
Yeah.
Right? It's art, still. Movie's another art form. But the thing is that I'll look at it and I'll see something different. I'll see some chick. But another guy will say, no, it's Leonardo da Vinci's greatest achievement, this and that, the Mona Lisa, the epitome of womanhood, and he'll see it on a completely different level. Yeah, and
well, that's the amazing thing about art, generally speaking.
That's right. And the thing is that him telling me that da Vinci's greatest thing or whatever has enlightened me, right? And then again, there's a way to say that too, right? Because, I mean, I can go off it like a complete and utter arrogant, pretentious fool and say, oh, you have no idea what this is. And then you'll just turn the person off.
Yeah.
Right? But I mean, the thing is, RoboCop begs more attention from everybody because it had a very strong message.
The reason why I think the remake is a good movie, as opposed to the other movie, is because exactly what you guys have described. It does exactly the things that it's supposed to do, which is talk about consumerism and people being owned by a corporation and all that. But it does it like right away. It's very apparent from the beginning.
Yeah, but then they get off to more of a tangent where it's more about the advancement in technology, like the how they want to legalize using drones in America, basically, right?
And that's why I think
through more of an agenda that way. Yeah.
Yeah. And
so they tried to do something different, which is interesting, but
Yes.
I felt personally like it felt flat.
Mm-hmm.
You like the movie, and
I'm indifferent to it.
you're indifferent.
Yeah.
So you see now,
Which is almost the worst thing about a movie. To me.
Yes.
At least a swing. At least if it's so bad it's bad and it's terrible. At least there's a giant swing and a miss.
yes, that's
For this,
true.
it's like, yeah, I'll never think about it again
Yeah,
until
and
I talk with him about it.
That's the thing. I got the same when you brought it. I was saying about the remake. I wasn't saying anything about the remake. I said, you know what? Oh, you seen RoboCop? I said, okay, well, 1, 2 is okay, 3 and all the TV shows are crap. And you're like, oh, but what about the remake? I'm like, I totally forgot about that.
Yeah,
Like,
right.
What's really awesome about movies and what's really awesome about adaptations and revivals and things of that nature is that when you do a riff off of a character and you introduce new people to it, or people who didn't get it the first time around, they watch the original and now they have a greater appreciation for it. My point is that the remake allowed me to appreciate the original all the better. The first pass of it,
Yeah, sure. That's an interesting.
so
like,
that's
sort
why I
of-
say it's important. And to you guys who are fans from the start, great. You're like, remake, not worth my time or not necessary. But I would say to people of a different generation or people who didn't understand it
Yeah, it
conceptually,
could expose a whole.
it
And you're
exposes an
like, wow, I
aspect
saw
of
this RoboCop that just came out recently, and it's like, oh, I really liked it. Let me show you like
the original. And then you go back and you're like, holy, now I get it. I get why people like this original movie.
That is a very fair point because, like, it's for instance, like you see the Italian Job, right? There's a remake there, the original with Michael Caine in the '60s.
Yeah.
That I went and I seen the Italian Job. It was a well played movie. I liked
At least, yeah. Well, yeah. And so the comparison there is a little bit different because at least that one it's
good.
it's yeah. Like
It's still good.
I remember
Yeah.
like I remember the remake of the Italian Job.
Yeah.
Like I don't remember RoboCop.
Yeah, but you see, that's the thing, right? It's how it's done.
Yeah.
The premise of the movie remained the same in the Italian Job, right? They had to do something, and they got taken revenge over and whatever. That they had to do it, right? The mechanics, same thing, right? However, with RoboCop, you have the fact that the watered down part, as you're saying, right,
Yeah.
is it takes place through the entire movie, and how they water it down. It's not by toning down violence. It's an addition to that, because the thing is that they took the story, they messed with the story, which is the fact that okay, it's a man struggling to be what he was when he knows he cannot be it again, in a world where they need him to be the robot.
If we were to separate the two, we could say that these are both well-made movies for different reasons.
Yes.
And at the end of the day, as we've fairly easily demonstrated, we all have subjective things we take in when we watch these movies.
Absolutely.
And what makes it cool is when you learn things about why people value movies. Because I think we learned a really cool lesson with Mortal Kombat here. Why that movie is a really well-made action movie, I think at least. And maybe RoboCop 2 to extent to the lesser so. Maybe being a little bit picky, but anyway, point is, I think that's a really solid
point. Yeah.
point,
Yeah.
and I think it's a good point to end on.
In the ending, you're right. That's exactly how I look at it. That's RoboCop is its own classic on its own. The remake is something that is not poorly done at all. Great movie on its own, but because it's linked to the original, it's not as memorable.
Exactly.
That's
Yeah, agreed. Yeah,
Cool.
100%.
Okay, so do you think we covered it all then?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think so. Yeah.
Like everything you see here, did we cover everything? Is there any movies that maybe we didn't touch on that you feel we could have touched on a little bit more? horror, action, whatever. I know we didn't talk about comedy, maybe there's something in there. Feel free to comment below, like the video, like and share, and even better, subscribe to the channel.
Until next time, I'm Tim.
I'm Chris.
And this is Crosstalk.
There you go.
Cool.
Yeah, good stuff.